It's July, and it's snowing. You walk out into a field that should be shoulder high by now, and everything in it is dead. You can't remember the last time the sky was blue. And the worst part isn't the cold. The worst part is that every step of this was watched and measured and written down by people who could do nothing but write it down. None of this has happened yet. But every link in the chain you're about to watch is real, already in motion, and already being watched by someone whose entire job is to be afraid of it. This is how the world comes apart. Not all at once, one thread at a time. So which thread goes first? The one you have never once thought about, the ocean. Act 1. The fever breaks. Out in the Pacific, there is a patch of warm water. You've met it before. It's called El Niño. A little extra heat smeared across the tropical Pacific. That's all it takes to reach across the planet and move the weather on every continent at once. Floods in Peru, drought in Australia, a strange uneasy calm over the Atlantic. In our story, the year is 2026, and this is no ordinary El Niño. It is a super El Niño, the strongest in a generation. And then, quietly, the fever breaks. The winds shift. The warm water drains west, and cold water climbs up from the deep to take its place. El Niño becomes La Niña. It's colder, meaner twin. That much is real. The Pacific has swung between these two states for thousands of years. But La Niña doesn't calm the world down. It loads the dice, sharpens the droughts, deepens the floods, and quietly primes the Atlantic for a season of monsters. The board is tilting, and you are watching the sky, like everyone else. So what happens when the next blow doesn't come from the sky? Or the sea? What happens when it comes from under a city? Act 2. The mountain under the city. Beneath 500,000 sleeping people, on the edge of Naples, the ground is breathing. Its name is Campi Flegrei, a supervolcano. And this is not a story. This part is happening now. The earth there has been swelling, rising several inches a year, cracking open in tens of thousands of tremors. The strongest quakes recorded in centuries. Scientists don't ask if it wakes. They ask what they'll be able to do when it does. The answer, mostly, is watch. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. The last time Campi Flegrei erupted at full strength, it was a VEI 7, the very same size as a volcano called Tambora. When Tambora erupted in 1815, it was the largest blast in recorded history. It threw a veil of ash and sulfur so high and so wide, it wrapped the entire planet. The sun dimmed, the temperature dropped, and 1816 became the year without a summer. Snow fell in June. Harvests rotted across the northern world. Famine spread. The gloom pressed down so hard that a young woman, trapped indoors under a dead gray sky, wrote a story to survive it. A story about a corpse dragged back to life. You know it as Frankenstein. That was one eruption, 2 centuries ago, on a calm and healthy planet. Now put that same eruption here, on a world already tilting, a sky already sick, on a summer that simply never comes. 2 threads pulled loose. So what does the third one sound like? Nothing. You won't even hear it happen. Act 3. When the dust stops. Every year, the wind tears 100 million tons of the Sahara Desert into the sky and carries it clear across the Atlantic Ocean. You have never seen this thread. Almost no one has. And it is holding up more of your world than you would believe. Because that dust does 2 things. It feeds the Amazon. The greenest place on Earth grows out of thin, starving soil. And it lives on minerals blown in from the deadest place on Earth. 22,000 tons of phosphorus a year, almost exactly what the Amazon's own rivers wash away. A desert keeping a rainforest alive. And it smothers hurricanes. The hot, dry, dust-choked air rolling off the Sahara strangles storms in the cradle before they can turn. So what happens if the winds shift? If the dust simply doesn't come? The greatest forest on the planet begins to starve. And the Atlantic, with nothing left to hold it down, begins to boil. Every piece of that is real. The dust, the forest, the storms. We are only asking one thing. What happens when a thread this important goes slack at the worst possible moment? 3 threads. Gone. So what is the one that scientists lower their voices to talk about? Act 4. The cold that doesn't leave. Trace your finger up the map. From the Gulf of Mexico across the Atlantic toward Europe, there is a current there. A hidden river inside the ocean, carrying more water than every river on Earth combined, and hauling warmth to the north. It is the only reason London, sitting farther north than Montreal, has soft gray winters instead of killing ones. That current is Europe's heartbeat. Scientists call it the AMOC. And in the real world right now, it is slowing. It has not been this weak in more than 1,000 years. Slow it far enough, and it doesn't recover. It tips. And when it tips, it doesn't fade gently. It stops. They have modeled the silence that follows. Winters in London falling past 4 below 0 Fahrenheit. Oslo dropping to 54 below. In its entire recorded history, Oslo has never once been colder than 20 below. A continent that has fed itself for 1,000 years, going dark and cold and quiet. That is the last thread. So let's stop taking them one at a time. Let's stack them. 10 years. Start the clock. Year 1. The Pacific flips. You don't feel it. Nothing about your morning changes, but the rain stops falling where the food grows and starts falling where the people live. The world has survived that before, many times over. It would survive it again, if that were all. Year 2. The ground under Naples opens, and the sky closes. A veil of sulfur thrown so high that no weather on Earth can wash it out. Somewhere over the Atlantic, the blue goes flat and stays flat. 1 year of that is a hard year. 2 is a famine. Year 4. The Saharan wind shifts. The dust that feeds the Amazon stops arriving. You will not see this on any news channel. There is nothing to film. The forest doesn't fall over. It just stops growing. And out over the warm Atlantic, with nothing left to smother them, the storms start finishing what they start. And here is where it stops being a bad decade. Because the great current has been leaning the whole time, quietly, for a century, while you were watching everything else. Year 7, it stalls. Year 9, it stops. The hidden river that keeps a continent warm simply isn't there anymore. London freezes to the bone. The breadbasket of Europe goes quiet. And somewhere in the 10th year, outside a city that used to have summers, it is July, and it is snowing. None of that happened. Not in that order. Not yet. Here is the only lie I told you, the order. That exact chain falling in that exact sequence. That part is a story. But pull the story apart and look at what is left in your hands. The ocean that flips. The mountain under the city that will not stop shaking. The desert that feeds a forest and ocean away. The current, slowing, that keeps a continent alive. Every one of them is real. Everyone is being watched, right now, by someone who is worried. And scientists no longer study them as separate threats. They study how one falling drags down the next. There is a real research paper for that. The words in its title are Climate Domino Effects. We did not invent a single monster tonight. We only lined them up. And the most frightening thing about this story, the thing you should carry with you when it ends, is how little of it we had to make up. Every one of those threads has someone whose job it is to watch it, which is either deeply reassuring or the most alarming job description you have ever heard.